Welcome everybody to today's webinar by Enscape. My name is Kai Burival. I'm a support agent here at Enscape, and today we will have a look at our new release, the Enscape 2.7, the newest features. What has changed from the past version to 2.7? Some known problems. And we will have a Q&A towards the end. So speaking of questions and answers, today the questions are being answered by my great colleague Demian Gutberlet, who is currently waiting for your questions. Let's get right into it. You see that I have already opened our main project from our latest release video. We have this project in Revit, which is why I'll be presenting the majority of this webinar in Revit. Although, as almost always, there really is not that much of a difference between the cats. But you know what? Let's have a look at today's topics. I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation for you. So first of all, the new features. We will have a look at our new orthographic views, which allow you to create easily beautiful floor plan renderings or elevations. We will have a look at the BIM mode, which is available for ArchiCAD and Revit only at this point. Yeah, we will have a look at the language support, currently in the form of a German version of Enscape. And we will have a look at the new ability to link your settings presets to your 3D views and the new batch render dialog. Yeah, that's the new features. Then we will have a look at the new assets. Most importantly, the new buildings that allow you to create a nice neighborhood in no time, and the new lamps that we've added to our asset library. We will have a look at other changes like improved clouds and fog, improved shading of cutout textures, which you can use especially for curtains and nice thin cloth objects, but also for other things, of course. The new RTX toggle, which will allow you to enable or disable RTX on RTX-based machines. And of course, again, ArchiCAD 23 support. Then known problems like installation issues that we're aware of. SketchUp 2020, when is it due? When can we expect it? And 3D connection space mouse issues. And as mentioned, the Q&A. So let's dive right into it. Orthographic views. As most of you will know, for a long time we had this two-point perspective in Enscape already available, which would force vertical lines into being displayed vertically no matter what angle you're looking at them. But oftentimes you want to have something where the perspective, the depth distortion is entirely disabled. And up to this point, what you could do was to dial down the field of view and zooming far out to minimize the depth distortion as far as possible. But of course, this is not a very beautiful solution, and it is not perfectly orthographic. So it's been requested quite a lot. The new orthographic perspectives, and you can access them either through these visual settings like before, where you could also access the two-point perspective, or we have a couple of new icons in the Enscape interface itself, which are visible whenever the help chart is visible, which you can enable by pressing the H key. So let me mark that for you. Up here, you see two new icons in the Enscape interface. One that decides whether you're in fly mode or walk mode. So you can also just control it by clicking this icon in Enscape now, in the Enscape interface, but also, and more importantly, the perspective selector. Let me maybe mark it a little more clearly for you, so we should see it somewhere here. The perspective selector, which lets you decide regular perspective, two-point perspective, or the new orthographic perspective. And you notice that at first this will place us somewhere rather far out of the project. It's maybe not perfectly centered when you enable this mode, but you can navigate it like before by pressing W to zoom in. This time you're actually not moving forward, but you're zooming in. S to zoom out, you can pan by pressing D, A, Q, and E, or the other ways of navigating in Enscape work as well. So right click to orbit this. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and so on and so forth. It's been brought out already that it's been brought up already that the background is white by default in this mode. Yes, that is intended, and there is no way to change this, at least not at this point. If you'd like to be able to change your background, of course, as always, we are happy for any feedback. So yeah, I'm seeing some people have difficulties hearing me. I hope again the technical side is correct, and at least most people can hear me well. So yeah, that's the orthographic views. These, of course, are perfectly combined with a section view. So that means in terms of Revit, you can place a section box. In terms of SketchUp, you can place a section plane. In terms of Rhino, you can also place a section plane, and so on. So you can just cut off parts of your model. I hope I got the right one, or was it view 3 where I had the section box applied? So of course, this feature, as most features are, is available for all Enscape supported CAD solutions. So yeah, feel free to use this to now easily create beautiful floor plan renderings in Enscape graphics quality. So something like this, for example, and here's our new dialog, which we'll cover later. But yeah, just hit save as always. And yeah, I probably cut off a little bit of that project here, but this is what your floor plan renderings look like. Whoops, I'm sorry. Pretty much immediately. So yeah, new perspective, nice to have, definitely. That is that. If you have questions regarding this orthographic perspective, of course, feel free, as always, to just ask. We'll be happy to assist. Oh, by the way, the initial mentioning, as I said, this webinar is being recorded, so you can watch it later on, share it with other people, whatever you'd like. If something is not being covered in or during this webinar, which you would like to discuss, or not covered in enough detail for your taste, you can always go to our website, enscape3d.com, and at the very bottom, schedule a free personal demo. So again, at the very bottom of that page, to discuss with us in person, one-on-one, or if you want to as a team on your side, and we're happy to discuss any feedback, any questions, any problems you might face visualizing with Enscape. Let's jump back to our initial view. The section should be removed as it's being synchronized automatically from Revit. And let's return to our default perspective. Next thing, the BIM mode. We have a new addition in our controls chart down here, BIM, press B. So by doing that, we notice that there opens a list on the left side of Enscape. Let me actually maximize it since we don't need Revit at this point. This is a pretty nice new feature. Again, unfortunately, currently only available for ArchiCAD and Revit. The reason behind that is only ArchiCAD and Revit are actually holding BIM data. So BIM data being information of certain objects like manufacturer, cost, dimensions, etc. And because of that, you can open the BIM mode in SketchUp and in Rhino, but it will not show any valuable data for you. So that's why at this moment it's only available for Revit and ArchiCAD. But the cool new thing is you can either select any objects from this list, and see the valuable data behind that, or you can actually select them right in Enscape, and they're being neatly highlighted. You can continue to roam through Enscape like before, but if you want to see some information on a certain object, just click on it and you will see, again, valuable information like dimensions. Now, in this case, is it a, no, that's fine. So yeah, pricing, additional information entered by the manufacturer or by your coworkers. Let me have just a short look on the questions, because there seems to be a lot coming in. Can you show doors, swings, and Enscape rendered floor plan view? No, because I would have to model that door or model it open. So did not plan on that. Yeah, so let's continue. Unless you have any questions regarding the BIM mode. If that's the case, again, you're free to answer any questions or give us any feedback, of course. Next point on our list, the language support. Now, in the beginning, or right now, we, as a first measure, we have decided to support German as our first language. The reason behind that is simple. We're a German company, so this is the easiest for us to sort of test everything and make sure everything works correctly. If you would like to change your Enscape language to German, at this point, you can do so by opening the general settings, go to preferences, and here select, well, Deutsch, which is German. I could do it right now. It would require a rapid restart, so mind, it will not change immediately. You will need to restart your CAD software in order to view the new language. But apart from that, that's as simple as it is. So we will follow up German with which is next, or which is planned next. French, Spanish, and Italian. That's what we're planning right now, to be able to support a bigger customer base and to be able to be used by more architects. That is also up for you to use right away. Now, the last new feature, although of course we have a couple more features prepared, but the last one from my list is link settings to views and the new batch render dialog. So we have, of course, heard your remarks, your requests to be able to link settings presets to certain 3D views. This has been an issue, and I want to mention that right away. Or let me show you first how to do it, so we can just maybe set up some interesting views. So let's say we store our default preset as default. Okay, then we'll change something like enable outlines and maybe switch to white mode. And let's say we call this drawing maybe, or draft or something like that. Then let's say we would like to have, let's just choose a third one. Yeah, let me actually switch to one of my views. That might be interesting. That's not the one either. This one could work pretty nicely. I'm not sure why orthographic is written wrong here. I'll make sure to correct that. But what this feature is also very useful for is if you're batch rendering a large number of images at once, is the depth of field. So usually you would have to change the focal point for every single rendering. But now if you want to focus one specific part of your image and have the rest blurred, you can save this as, for example, with the name of that view. So ortho view, for example, press OK. And now that we have three settings presets stored in this project file, we can go to our 3D views here, and you see this new chain icon next to each view. And yeah, you can use that to link a visual settings preset. So let's choose drawing for our drone shot, ortho view for our orthographic view. Okay. Candle, no, let's see, which that one should be nice. We can use this as a default. Okay, so what I like to mention is these settings presets, when they're connected to 3D views, they will not show up, they will not be interpreted during real-time visualization with Enscape. So the only part where these settings are currently being read is during batch rendering, because we felt that this is the one part where they allow you to do things that you could not before. If you feel like you would also like to see those settings during real-time display, for example, feel free to well, you can of course store, or you can of course write as a question. But it seems like there is a lot of questions coming in. So if you want to make sure you're being heard, you can also of course always go to our forums and yeah, voice your opinion there. And while talking about that, and while our new UI designer Hannah is currently walking past me, I also like to, oh no, not the knowledge base. I also like to bring up one more thing in our user forum. Currently, we have this nice survey, Enscape feature usage, which Hannah has asked me to also please mention. If you're interested to share your opinion with us, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to get to open our forums, share your well your insights, your Enscape feature usage with us, and of course any feedback that you think is valuable for us. So now that I've mentioned that, again, there's currently no way to access these linked settings presets during real time. But once we go to rendering, there we are, render image, we now have this new render dialog popping up whenever you'd like to render an image. The current viewport is selected by default, so you can just press render and then continue. So it will then, of course, just ask you where to save your image as usual, and then just generate that image. But if you decide to batch render, well, all of your settings presets are being shown or are being used currently. So I just held Control, selected these three 3D views I have prepared. Now I can press render, and I will get a rendering with every settings preset that I've selected before. Let's see. Have another look. Oh yeah, beautiful. Our drawing settings preset. Do the linked visual settings work across multiple computers? Well, if you store them in the project, which is the default, and then share and then save that project and then share it with one of your colleagues, they will be available. Whether or not they are linked, and that linking is stored in the Revit file in this example, I have to admit I haven't tried yet. I would estimate not, but I'd be happy to try it as soon as I can. And if you want to try it, and if you want to give us some feedback on it, again, of course, you're very welcome to do so. Can you change the image proportions or size? Yes, you can change that in our visual settings. I'll show you as soon as my rendering is finished, which should be now. Yes, so there we go. Let's go to our default presets. Or yeah, let's load my default one. And if you want to change the dimensions and the scale of your renderings, you can do this in the Capture tab. Just change the resolution to one of our presets or choose your own one. And yes, this is of course also saved in your settings presets if you store them, so you can decide for a batch rendering process for every single rendering if you want to do this, to have a separate aspect ratio and separate resolution if you want to. So yes, this is possible. All right. Well, again, still quite a number of questions pouring in. We have still a couple of things to show you. So yeah, let's continue with our new assets. First of all, I'd like to mention our lamps. Do we have any in here? If not, I'll be happy to place it. So let's open up our asset library. By the way, we're constantly optimizing the loading time for our asset library. So this should be a lot better than it was before. Let's have a look at our new section. 300 and let's say 349 new 3D models available for you to make your scene, yeah, natural and looking as if people are already living in there. And let's choose one of these and just place it here. First of all, one of the lamps, because there is something I want to show you about this. Well, yeah, so it's loading the lamp. And did it place it on the correct level? Yes, this looks good. Oh, I think I've placed it in the floor. Let's see. Where is it anyways? Here. Well, yeah, let's pick the lamp, pick a new host. And again, except for the BIM mode, everything I've mentioned so far, of course, is available for all of the CAD softwares, although I have to mention, yes, for ArchiCAD, there is not, or there are no 3D views currently, so you cannot link any settings presets, of course, to it. But that is also something that we have on our agenda. So we are definitely aiming for feature equality for all of our softwares. What I wanted to mention regarding these lamp assets is please do not yet use them to really light your scene, because let's have a look. As you see, they do not, at least not yet, contain a native light source, in this case Revit, but the same is true for SketchUp, Rhino, and ArchiCAD. That is something that we are planning for the future. Many of these assets do already contain emissive materials. So you could technically use them to light a scene, but your results will look a little splotchy and not very clean. So we do definitely recommend, when using these assets, to also add an additional light source for them to shine in a proper light and to illuminate your scenery in the quality that you see here. However, for the future, we have definitely planned to also deliver assets that hold native light sources. So that is definitely a plan for the future. However, something that you definitely already can use in its full glory is our new and very, very beautiful, if you ask me, distant buildings. No, sorry, environment. No, wait a second. I have to look it up. There we are, the asset library, and here we have the surrounding buildings. That was the term. So a nice selection of different styles of buildings, as you know it from our asset library, that will be placed as placeholders in Revit or in your CAD software, in SketchUp, in Rhino, and ArchiCAD, but which will be displayed in high quality in Enscape right away. So let's see. I can just drag and drop them as any asset. I choose my floor to place them in. I hope you don't mind. I will just place them inside of these trees right now, because that's just how my sample project looks right now. But still, this should give you a nice idea of how they can work. And I will place another one right away, where we can have a better look at them. But I found myself liking this effect of them being in the trees a lot. So let's wait for this to update. And here we are. So yeah, again, it is placed inside of some trees. I will place another one right away that we can have a closer look at. But as you see, these are actual buildings. You can create a almost a whole neighborhood in no time. Yeah, do I want to still stick with an office building? Yes, why not? I think they look interesting in this context. But again, of course, it's up to you. We have a set of nice styles for you to choose from. While it's loading, while I'm placing it, I'll have another look at the questions. Is it possible to change a material of an asset? Yeah, not yet at least. We're planning those things for the future. What about PNG rendering? How do I create a transparent background that I can modify in Photoshop? I'd be happy to show you in a second, Federico. So here's another building, this time not in a tree. And you see the amount of detail on these is not too much, but really, really astonishing. They really work as scene dressing. How to create a transparent rendering. To do that, the easiest way with Enscape at this point is go to the visual settings and enable export object ID, material ID, and depth channel. Dial this slider all the way to the right to 10,000 meters. That's the depth range. And that will create for you a binary depth map or a mask, which you could use, or which is called an alpha channel. You can use as an alpha channel, which means you get a black and white representation of where your project is and where your background is. So you can use this as a mask in Photoshop to easily get rid of the entire background when overlaying it over your actual rendering. So that is the way to get transparent backgrounds with Enscape. I just saw that from the edge of my eye. I hope nobody is angry if I went over that question. I'll try to answer as many questions in our last 15 minutes as possible. All right, improved clouds and fog. Some of you have probably already noticed that we have some entirely new clouds, and look at this glory and the detail that these work in. And not just that, we've also improved the realism of the whole sky behavior, which means, for example, when a new day begins, the atmospheric effect of the sun and the sunlight taking effect on, well, the atmosphere and the clouds is physically correct. You can even see the correct shape of the earth slowly unveiling these beautiful clouds. So yeah, from my side, really kudos to our rendering engineers. They've done an amazing job once again. And of course, just like before, you can change these clouds to your desire. You can have denser clouds, and look at how nice these light rays work in these, and how realistic you see those actual light spikes there behaving. And of course, you can also, as previously as well, change the cirrus amount and contrails. So you're really free to design the sky that you prefer. I like this one, I think. Yeah. All right. That then we also have added some nice fog effects. And I've prepared, or we've improved our fog. And I would like to show you a direct comparison of that. So I've prepared two standalone files. You know what? Let me just open them at the same time. Yes, I will be running Enscape with a not that small project 3 times at the same time. No risk, no fun. No, just kidding. Enscape is of course perfectly fit to run huge amounts of data. So let's open up all of them at once, so we have a screen by screen comparison or side by side comparison. Let's have another. Earth is not flat in Enscape, LOL. No, exactly. I don't want to get into anything political here, but we try to stick with realistic facts. So yeah, that's how we see the sky behaving when we look out the window. Whatever reason it is, it does it like that. 2.7 is compatible with SketchUp 2020. I will cover that later. No, it is not yet. We plan support for SketchUp 2020 with Enscape 2.7.1, which is expected to arrive mid-March. So soon. If you need Enscape in SketchUp 2020 already, there is manual ways to get it in there, and we hear reports that it works very well. There's no issues with it. It's just not being installed automatically yet. In Enscape to SketchUp 2020, there are explanations how to do that in our forums. Maybe Demian can look it up if he has the time. It doesn't look like it by the amount of questions, but maybe he can post it as a reply to your question. But let's have a look at our new fog. The new fog, you see the old one on the right side and the new one on the left side. There is two major additions that we've included. First of all, you see the lighting, or sorry, the color is different. On the right side, we have this rather bluish fog that we had since the beginning, and it's looking like fog, but that's not really how fog behaves, because fog works like a cloud, or it is a cloud close to the ground. So it rather spreads light diffusely in all directions, and that's what makes it look this way. So the color is now way better. And one more thing, which you might notice only if you're looking closer, but the Enscape cloud before that did not blur things, so everything was sharp even in the distance. And look at this. This has changed with the new Enscape fog, and I feel like this is a maybe not noticeable on the first glance, but this is a huge improvement, because this really makes it feel like actual fog, if you ask me. And yeah, let's go to the old version, get a little closer. And of course, we have all our beautiful real-time shadow effects as well. So yeah, just continue using this fog, and it will give you convincing results. By the way, if you've been working with fog before and you did not get as convincing results as what I've shown you right now, let me give you this small tip. Where's our fog? There it is. So if you just dial up the intensity, that is great. That is like, your early morning fog or something like that. But if you want to have real dense fog, you will need to also dial up the height, and that will really, feel like, like some thick soup of fog. All right, moving on. New improved shading of cutout textures. Again, everything I've mentioned so far, except for the BIM mode and except for the link views for ArchiCAD, is available for all softwares, so for all CAD softwares, all four. So I don't think I have to switch between CAD softwares to show you. Next thing, improved shading of cutout textures. Now, there is a simple way of creating very thin cloth, transparent cloth, something like curtains. And actually, I've seen a beautiful example of that. I'm not sure if I'll find it quickly enough. Probably not, since there is so much amazing renderings coming into our forums at the moment. But we've already seen very, very convincing examples of curtains, for example. And curtains have been a material or an object that was rather hard to achieve in Enscape. You could do it by using a very small, for example, noise texture. So the one that I've used for this, it's currently hidden behind my video sharing software. So let me just open this up quickly. Go to my desktop. So the one that I've used for these curtains is this one. Yes, I think it is this one. Is this texture? So really just a simple noise texture. You can get more detailed. You can actually use cloth textures that have those little knots, for example, those little threads in there. But this works just as well. What you want to do is apply this to a surface as a transparency texture. And this is what it looked like before. So you can get nice results with it. But you see, as soon as we have two layers on top of each other, is where it does not really look that realistic anymore. And this is also something that has changed with Enscape 2.7. This is what this experiment would look like now. So you see where we have two layers on top of each other, they're far more, realistically, they are being multiplied with each other. So if they're on top of each other, you have half the transparency. And in general, this works a lot better with lighting. And it's just your path to really realistic curtains. So If you want to have a detailed explanation on how to achieve this effect, I was actually planning this to maybe take place during this webinar, but I think the time will be a little short. But of course, we can tackle that in a screen sharing session or during some other webinar. It's really simple, so just use it as a transparency map. And maybe you want to dial down the brightness or inverse the noise and dial down the brightness then to make them a little darker and therefore make the cloth look a little more fleshy or a little thicker like this. But I feel like I wish I would have shown that in a better prepared project, but I feel like that really opens the gate for really beautiful semi-transparent materials, whatever you'd like to use them for. All right, let's see, where are we in our list? Improved trading of color textures, the RTX toggle. So with our RTX implementation, all the users using RTX hardware at the moment, the case is we are still working heavily with NVIDIA to iron out the last issues, both in their drivers and in our way of interpreting things. But at this point, it's possible for RTX to have higher or perceived higher hardware demands than non-RTX graphics cards. And so far, you could not really turn that off in Enscape. So especially we from support are very happy to now offer you to offer RTX graphics card users the new where is it? It's in performance. The new RTX ray tracing toggle can enable, disable. You will need to restart Enscape once you've changed that, but that can turn RTX on and off. So if you are experiencing issues with having an RTX graphics card, the only solution before was either to adjust your project or to downgrade to an earlier version of Enscape, and by now you can disable RTX in case you're experiencing issues. So important for you to know. All right, now the heavily expected moment. We will talk about ArchiCAD, but there is not that much for me to tell you about it. It's just that we are now also supporting ArchiCAD 23. Finally, we're happy to give our users nice support for, to offer support there. So yeah, you can just use Enscape with the same functionality ArchiCAD has, or Enscape for ArchiCAD has provided before, with ArchiCAD 23 now. And again, of course, if you experience issues or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us any way you'd like. All right, next point, no problems, yes. Install your Visual Studio Redistributables. So with the new installer, with our MSI installer, there is this new prompt here. If Visual C++ runtime is not installed for your machine, and if you didn't update to Enscape yet, if you didn't update to Enscape 2.7 yet, if you did, everything works fine, perfect. If you didn't and you're planning to update, I heavily recommend to follow this link and download the Visual C++ runtime provided on that link, because if you skip this and it is not installed, you will experience that Enscape is just not loading, or it is loading, but it will not finish. So if you're experiencing something like that at the moment with the latest version, either reinstall and click this link here, or again, in our forums, you can get that link as well. But if you just install this Visual C++ runtime while installing Enscape, you are good to go. Then next, we have received a lot of remarks and requests regarding SketchUp 2020, and also current issue with the 3D connection space mice, where you would have to use an older driver with the space mouse to work with Enscape. But that driver was not supported in SketchUp 2020, so we needed to really find a good solution for that. And this solution is expected to come in mid-March with SketchUp 2020 support, space mouse or improved space mouse behavior, and of course a lot of more tiny additions as always with Enscape 2.7.1. And this is the list so far. Let me think if I if I forgot anything, no, but it seems like we have also landed on point from a time perspective. So let's see if we have some questions. Debian, you can of course just if you've picked some questions, you can of course just write them to me in the chat. If not, I will just look for questions that haven't been answered yet and answer them just like that. Let's see. So yeah, if you have any questions regarding what I said, now is the time to post them. If you won't write them down, if you won't write them down immediately, maybe we won't get to them anymore. But you know what? Let me just start from the back here. Can you run Enscape from BIM 360? So Enscape is not web-based. Enscape is running locally on your machine always. If you have a BIM 360 model synchronized to your Revit, Enscape will display it correctly. So that is possible, but Enscape is not running, or it is always running on your computer. There is no Enscape running on a cloud at this point, at least. We might be looking into that, but again, or that is of course just speculation at this point. I prefer to test being in IT before we let users know that there is a newer version that is reasonable, I think. Where can I put a request for additional bad assets, Lizzie? You can put a request, so you can always just hit the feedback button to get in contact with us. That's the quickest way. Just write us, we need more bad assets, and we will forward it to our 3D artists right away. If you want to make sure that they are the way you imagine them, you can also write, of course, further descriptions to it. But whatever way you tell us any feature requests, be it in the forums, be it via email, support@enscape3d.com, or via feedback. We're happy to forward 3D asset requests to our 3D artists, feature requests to our developers, and greetings and praise, we keep those for ourselves because we are the support. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we forward those to our developers just as well. Plans to allow for the use of IES photometric webs. Yes, David, we are supporting IES photometric webs since, I believe, the beginning, or at least since I am with this company, which has been for 4 years now. We actually have on our website an IES web gallery, a sample gallery that I changed the last time like 3 years ago. So it depends on what CAD software you're using. In Revit, you can just use IES web files the regular way, as you would use any or as you would handle it in a light fixture. In SketchUp, if you use a spotlight, you can check use IES light and load your file. In terms of Rhino, as far as I'm informed, Rhino does not support IES files natively. So if you're a Rhino user, you would probably have to come up with our own lighting system for Rhino, which is not the case at this point. But again, Enscape itself does support IES files. If it doesn't for your CAD solution, it's just because we don't have that input there yet. But again, that's definitely our goal to provide feature parity or feature equality for all of our CAD softwares. I'm having trouble setting up my, there's a question. Navisworks Support. Yes, we have heard a lot of Navisworks Support. We are debating this. So Demian just wrote me that a couple of people have been asking for Navisworks Support. Thank you very much for your feedback. I hope Demian counted that so we can file that as feature requests. We have debated this a lot, and there is no real ETA at this point for Navisworks Support. I would have preferred that if I'm allowed to be perfectly honest. But the next software to be supported, and I hope I'm allowed to already mention that, is Vectorworks, which will soon also have a Enscape featuring or an Enscape plugin. But yeah, as always, we're happy for your feedback, and we'll make sure to file it and to forward it accordingly. I'm having trouble setting up my lighting. Are there any techniques on how to layout lighting, which you can get from Enscape objects. Jose, you're referring to SketchUp. Yes, we've held entire webinars on lighting for SketchUp. So if you're interested in that, reach out to us. I don't have your email address right now, so I can't send it to you or anything. But feel free to get in contact, write us an email via feedback, or ask us in the forums, and we'll be happy to share that with you. Or again, go to our website, and at the very bottom, schedule a web session with us so we can show you in person. Is there a way to turn off the pop-up for updates until we test it thoroughly before releasing it to the entire office? Yes, there is. You can go to the Enscape general settings, and I think it was in a preference. No, let me see. I think it was licensing. No, we've just recently changed our settings a little bit. So help us improve, get notified whenever a new preview version is released. No, sorry, it's not available in our settings. We have changed our installer a little bit in the past, or in the recent past. Let me see if we have this in the installer functionality. Installer program options. So quiet, install silently, do not show GUI, blah, blah. Skip requirements, local, all users, skip install location, install level. We had that definitely for our previous installer. Actually, to answer whether or not we can disable the notifications at this point, I would have to investigate and get back to you. If that's a topic for you, and it looks like that is, please reach out to us either via feedback or via forums, and then we'll be happy to discuss that with you and find a solution. Do you have a link, any information on RAM preferred video cards that run Enscape really well? Yes, definitely. We have system requirements that you can look it up. If you want me to just give you a recommendation, I personally am a huge fan of oh, we're already here, of NVIDIA GTX, of NVIDIA RTX, NVIDIA Quadro. In general, the newer the graphics card, the newer the date it was released, the more VRAM it holds, the better for Enscape. But with the graphics card mentioned on this page that I'm going to answer publicly, with these you're good to go. It always depends whether you want to go into virtual reality or not. Virtual reality has higher requirements, but these are, the minimum, and yeah, a very good basis for Enscape. Let's see. I'm picking a little randomly here right now. I hope you don't mind. Let me actually switch now to when our FAQ or to our Q&A started. We had that. Have you improved the extreme contrast in VR goggles? I think we are not aware of any extreme contrast in VR goggles. If you experience that, please get in contact with us. It might be a setting in your VR headset, or maybe in Enscape, who knows? But we'll be happy to investigate that with you. But you should not have any extreme contrast in VR goggles. If that's the case, that's not normal, and we'll be happy to have a look at that. Vectorworks question? Yes. Regarding the orthographic view, when I make a section, the objects from Enscape itself are still there, shown, even though the section don't cover them. In other words, they should not be shown. Mahmoud, that sounds interesting. We haven't heard of that before. Again, we would need to know what CAD software you're using, and maybe see some screenshots of that. If you could get in contact with us by hitting the feedback button and describing your issue a little bit, we would be very thankful, and we'd be happy to investigate that with you. Is field of view tool for blurred effect in rendering? No, field of view is like the zoom effect. Let's open our settings, visual settings. So field of view, oh, wait a second, I have it in a second. So field of view, yeah, I have to align Enscape here. Field of view is a zoom effect, so that lets you zoom in, but it don't blur things. If you want to blur things based on their distance, use depth of field. That's DOF, also an abbreviation, but not the same one. So that is for blurring objects. All right, that was an easy one. Can you please explain RTX switch again? Well, it's simple. If you're running an RTX hardware, an RTX graphics card, RTX is being enabled by default. If you're experiencing bad performance or any types of issues that are RTX related, and if that's the case, our supporters will tell you. So please, first of all, reach out to us via feedback button, and then we will guide you through that. But if you're experiencing bad performance, you can then disable RTX, restart Enscape once, so close it, reopen it, and then RTX will be disabled. And if you had a bad performance before, you should have a way better performance after that. That can also be a good way, of course, for self-diagnosis to see if your issues are RTX related or not. BIM mode will provide info about BIM object or Revit City downloaded families. Yes, anything that you have in your edit type. So Enscape really tries to get all the information, all the relevant information available for any objects you want to go for. And as you see, it rather tries to get more than or too much than too few. So yes, it should definitely show the info also from Revit City downloaded families. Will editing the time in video get improved? When you update the time for one time frame at the beginning of the video, you have to edit the time for every other time frame, which takes quite a bit of time. We've already tried to improve that. So of course we want to enable you to have to be able to edit single keyframes and move them, in their relationship to their neighboring keyframes, so to say. But if you want to change the total duration, that is, and I hope that helps. If not, feel free again to reach out to us and we'd be happy to discuss that with you. But if you want to change the total duration overall, you don't have to edit every single keyframe. You can just grab this slider here and move it to your total duration of choice. Let's see. Oh, we have 3 minutes left, and I'm just at minute 6:46 of our Q&A that started at 6:45. So again, if there's questions not answered, I apologize. I did my best, but feel free to schedule a web session. Feel free to reach out anyway, and we're always happy to support you in using Enscape, as you know. What is the best way to eliminate shadows when using an orthographic plan view? Very good question. I would say it is the white skybox. So to do that, I'll just copy one image. Let me just edit this image. Open with paint.net. I don't care. I don't need no Photoshop. And what I want to do is adjust it to resize, not by percentage. I want to have something like 2000. There we go. Resize times 1000. So we need a 2:1 or 1:2 or 3:4 aspect ratio. And then we want to have an entirely wide image. So it's let's do it like that. And save. So if we use this as a skybox, let's see, that's this one. This is rather interesting. Yeah, so the skybox does not change the shadows at this point because our sun is still shining. But if we change to night mode, the sun is out of the picture, and now we can use this horizon or the skybox and brighten it up, and that will remove all shadows, or it will illuminate your scenery from all angles. Now I have to admit, I haven't tried this with the new orthographic mode, but I'm eager to do so. So let's see. And yeah, it worked. So that's the way to eliminate all shadows. Use a skybox with a 1:2 aspect ratio that is entirely white. Change to night mode. Dial the brightness up and you will have a project that is evenly lit from all sides. Nice, I like this. What does the time say? We have 1 minute left. Can we only import assets from inside Enscape, or can we download assets from 3D parties like Evermotion and import them? This is planned for our next version, the custom 3D model loader. I can't promise anything. Please don't be angry if it should not turn out that way. But we are waiting for this very eagerly, so it's definitely on our agenda. After a rain effect would be nice, snow as well, thanks. Yes, David, I agree. I can of course do it by increasing the glossiness of certain objects. For Enscape, the difficult part is to decide, what is getting wet and what stays dry. But we will file your feature request. Thank you very much for that. Is there a way to turn off the pop-up? Oh no, we had that before. So I think I have answered as many questions as possible. Again, if yours wasn't amongst them, feel free to reach out any other way and we'll be happy to discuss that with you. Thank you all very much for attending. Thank you for your enormous interest, and enjoy Enscape 2.7 and share your results with us. As always, we are happy if you share your the amazing work you are creating using Enscape in our forums, share it with the community, and yeah, enjoy what they're creating themselves. It's always worth a look. So yeah, thank you, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.